REB board come up also? Gonna be Rob? Okay. Nagin, are you ready?
There's a lot of micros in this. A lot of micros.
Susanna's over there. Carol? Can I have you for a minute, Susanna? And where's Ina? There's Ina. Okay. We would like to welcome all of you to spend your Sunday afternoon with us. I know there's lots and lots of stuff going on. What we're hoping to accomplish today is that you all learn to work together and to make new friends and old friends, and that we move forward as a coalition to make our world a little bit better than it is right now. And that's going to be a tall order. I'd like to introduce our board of directors for Our Revolution East Bay. Carol Coyote and Susanna are co-chairs with me. With three, I'm Sherry. And then we have Ina and Michael and Richard and Mark and Joaquin. And we're all volunteers. Any money you give to us goes right back into doing the work that we want to do, which is get people elected who have our values and to promote the issues that we all care about.
And free Palestine.
And free Palestine. And other places. I would also like to say thank you to Michael and our Michael, who got this wonderful location for us. This is just such a beautiful spot. I wish we had thousands of people, but we'll get there. This is our first in-person meeting since the COVID. So
we used to regularly meet every month, or even more often during the days we were all working to get Bernie elected, and then along came COVID, and we've done nothing but Zoom. So this is to be our new beginning.
And hopefully it's being recorded, so who is our wonderful techie person, will put it up on our YouTube channel. Artist. But we'll get it up on our YouTube, so after the program, you can tell all of your friends to please watch it on our YouTube channel, which is Our Revolution East Bay. Yeah, just Our Revolution East Bay. Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, and we are. I forgot the date. What's the date? 27th of June. We are joining with Wellstone and a bunch of, and there's about 3 others. July 27th. In fact, that's too soon. Yeah. And do we know where it is, Michael? Bushwalk Park. So I don't know anything about it, as you can tell. I haven't read the memo. I only read memos kind of when they get closer to what I need to do stuff. So, I hope all of you will join us there. It's always been just a great event, and a good way again to make this coalition of all of us that have to work together. We have wonderful speakers today. We have Reverend Michael Yoshi Said.
You can say what you want.
Okay. This lovely, handsome gentleman. Joanna. We have Rob, who goes by Rob is Fine, and Nagin. So, all of the people on the stage are working tirelessly and passionately for helping Palestine and for trying to get peace and to help end the genocide. So I get to introduce Joanna first. Joanna and I got together and met each other when you were running for Central Committee the first time, the Alameda Central Committee. At the time, I was in the Alameda Central Committee too. Now I'm part of Costa Conta, so I'm a little bit in both places. And Joanna is a civil rights attorney. She has worked tirelessly for restorative justice and for changing our punitive justice system. She also is one of the co-founders of the Progressive Democrat Network, right? Yeah, delegates. Delegates Network, which is again trying to get coalition of like-minded people to change the needle of the establishment. You're teaching now at Berkeley Law, and she throws a really good party. And there should be handouts. Should we start passing those out?
Yeah, sure, why not? These ones.
Okay, so these are some handouts that you wanted us to have about the issue.
Good afternoon, family. I'm so happy to be here. It's been such a tough time. Every night looking at the news, working on my computer, trying to create change, and it just brings me joy to be here with all of you right now. Also, congratulations to the new space, our revolution. We love you. My name is Ioana Chuklova. Like Sherry said, I'm an attorney, a restorative justice circle keeper. I'm also an immigrant from Bulgaria who stands in solidarity with the Palestinian people and with all oppressed people around the world. I want to thank you, first of all, for being here, right? There's so many fun things, quote unquote, you could do on a Sunday, but you're here to hear and talk about what else can we do to stop the genocide and get us to a free Palestine. I want to thank you for calling your members of Congress, for going to city council meetings, for going to protests, for getting arrested, for being loud, for speaking up, for refusing to let go of your own humanity at this time when it's so easy to just look away. And I've been reflecting a lot over the last days about movements for freedom throughout history and how every single time the fight for freedom has, the outcome, the freedom at the end has felt impossible, right? Has always felt like, how are we gonna do this? Like Nelson Mandela said, right? The task of fighting for freedom, the task of achieving freedom always seems impossible until it is done. And I think about my own Bulgarian history. I was born and raised in Bulgaria. I come from a people who fought for 500 years for liberation from the Ottoman Empire. And in 1876, which seems like a long time ago, but it's only 150 years ago, my great-great-grandfather was a freedom fighter. And we were having one of our last uprisings. Of course, back then we didn't know it was going to be one of our last uprisings. And people were saying, like, why are we going to spill more Bulgarian blood? Like, we have been trying for 400 years. Why is this time going to work? And my great-great-grandfathers and his people would say, freedom or death. This is it. This is all we got. And they fought and they were killed. And it took only a few more years for the Ottoman Empire to crumble in Bulgaria and in many places where it had occupied the people, right? And you can't tell that in the moment because it always feels like an impossible task. And I think about that where we are right now with Palestine. It feels like an impossible task, but we know Palestine will be free and we have to act every single day like it is going to happen. And I just want to thank all of our Palestinian brothers and sisters, those who are here in the US, who've been teaching the rest of us about the land, about the culture, about the history, and those who are in Palestine, who are in the West Bank, who are in Gaza. When I was in Jenin in the north of West Bank last year, you know, the whole city is broken up by, the roads are completely destroyed by the tanks that come and attack the camp. And so the economy is in shambles and farmers are like producing produce that nobody's buying, they can't sell because people don't have the money to buy things, right? There's all the physical and harm that we think about, but there's also the economic harm and the environmental harm and all these other aspects of the ongoing genocide. And when my host stopped on the side of the road to talk to this old man who had a little plot of land, and he was telling her about how he and his son had been fleeing just a few days prior, the last time the tanks came and attacked some of the young men in the camp. And then he saw me and realized I'm obviously a foreigner. And then he picked this huge melon from his garden and he gave it to me. And I was like, oh, no, I can't take a gift. Like, I'm just thinking about, like, maybe I can contribute some money. And then Jinan, my host, was just like, oh, no, you are taking that gift. And I did. And he said, this is from the land of Palestine as a gift to you. And I always remember that melon. It was the best smelling melon, the tastiest melon I've ever had in my life. Reminded me of back home where I come from. And it's that generosity, right? And that dignity that the Israeli war crimes will never be able to destroy, will never be able to take away from people. And so I'm going to share a little bit about what happened at the California Democratic Party convention. As you know, that's one of the places that I organize in. And it's a story of also how we refuse to be silent. I know some of y'all were there. Susanna was there. Sherry was there. Anybody, obviously Austin. Anybody else who was there? Raise your hand. Oh yeah, Ina, that's right. And once again, right, the establishment just wants us to be quiet and shut up because we are being divisive. You know, Trump is so bad, the Democratic Party needs to unite. We, with our divisive issues, just need to get away. And, you know, the Democrats for Israel, which then recently renamed itself California Jewish Democrats on purpose, they had spent lots of money trying to defeat us in the last round of ADEM elections, and they succeeded. Many of us lost, right? I lost my ADEM race in 2018. Folks lost here in 2014. And they thought we were just going to back down and just not be there. But guess what? As part of the Progressive Delegates Network that Sherry told you all about, we brought hundreds of delegates and non-delegates to convention. And they were very upset about that. And it was hard because it was hard for them to see how many people were taking our posters and taking our flyers and taking our materials. And delegates who had, you know, don't seem to be particularly vocal about Palestine would come and would talk to us and say, thank you for being here. And it's true, not everybody was supportive. There was a small group of folks who were actively against us, who were taking our posters and tearing them up like publicly, and were, you know, filming us literally in our faces as we're giving public comment. But they were just literally 3 people out of the 3,000 people who were there. And whenever, you know, when they go low, we go high, right? They were being rude and we were being respectful. And we were just showing up to say, hey, we want this party to be a party that stands for the human rights of all people. And that is a unifying message. That is the kind of message we need in order to bring all the working class people, all the people who've been oppressed. Many of us come from places that have been hurt and are being hurt here in the United States. This is what's gonna completely transform this country and, yes, be able to defeat the Republican Party. And we gave public comment. We're trying to form a new group called California Democrats for Justice in Palestine as a charter club of the Democratic Party, the same way California Jewish Democrats is a charter club of the party. And dozens of people, y'all who were there, gave public comment and lined up to say, hey, allow this charter organization to form. It does not overlap with the Arab American Caucus. Those are completely different things. One is an identity caucus, one is a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-identity organization with a shared purpose. And then at Resolutions Committee too, we had another fight. You all know who were there. Shout out to the Wellstone Club, right? Who wrote this beautiful resolution in support of Mahmoud Khalil. And it was the only resolution on Palestine that somehow was not ruled out of order. A lot of our other resolutions, my sister Mivette and others wrote, were ruled out of order on total technicalities. That resolution was not. But it was combined with 6 other resolutions to create general language that completely watered it down and removed Mahmoud Khalil from the resolution. And so we had a big fight for 2 days, 2 different hearings, just to be able to say the name Mahmoud Khalil matters. Palestinian activists who are getting detained, who are getting their graduation opportunities revoked, who are losing their legal status in the United States just simply for speaking up, that is who we should stand for as a party. And we won. We were able to get his name into the resolution. We were able to include one of our amendments into the resolution. And then we worked really hard to make sure that resolution was prioritized and became one of the 10 or 11 resolutions that made it to the general session floor. And even then that morning, we were afraid one of the folks was gonna pull the resolution on the general session floor in front of 3,000 people and ask for the name to be removed again. But it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because they knew they didn't have the votes to win. Because there's a tidal shift even within the Democratic Party where more and more people are waking up and saying, hey, this is not okay. We cannot ignore what's happening in Palestine, and we cannot continue to ignore the 71% of Democrats who are saying we want an arms embargo now. And that tidal shift is happening only because of you all, because all of us who are going there and having those conversations. And you know, it's slow. It's like we fight for days for one word or two words or one line in a resolution. But Mahmoud Khalil is free. And certainly it wasn't our resolution, but it was the hundreds of thousands of people around the country, millions of people who are saying no, who are demanding that our judges actually enforce the law and say you cannot imprison people for exercising their First Amendment rights, right? And so lastly, because I'm an organizer, I made a little printout and I have some things for you guys to look at. The long side of the printout is not language that I wrote, it's language by our friends at Peace Action. And it just gives you an overview of all the things we're fighting for right now in Congress. Things like the UNRWA Restoration Act. I know it seems like a long time ago, but UNRWA is still, is still defunded, it still needs our funding. Things like the joint resolutions of disapproval that the Senator Sanders introduced for a second time to try to block specific weapon sales to the state of Israel. And now if you look in the back, there's a few QR codes that I was hoping y'all can scan. The very top one is for HR, I think it's 3565, is Stop the Bombs Act that was very recently introduced. So we're asking our Congress members to sign on to that act. Congressmember Latifa Simon, who's our Congress member here, she's already done it. So thank you, Latifa, always. And Mark Dusaunier and Garamendi and all the other ones, we gotta get them on board as well, right? We have to continue to reach out. The next one I think is in opposition to AB 715. I'm not gonna go into this bill, maybe somebody else can talk more about it, but we should not be censoring education about Palestine. The bill is now in the Senate Education and then Judiciary Committee. We still have a chance to stop it, so we have to reach out to our senators. A lot of our assembly members voted for that bill, by the way, or abstained, but none of them voted no. And then lastly is if you want to join the Progressive Delegates Network, if you're a delegate or not a delegate, you want to help us transform this party, we need all the help we can get. And free Palestine.
The speakers are all invited to join the network team.
Yeah.
Can you share what happened with the effort to try to get that club approved by the
Yeah, so the Rules Committee voted to defer the decision on whether to approve it or not until the new chair was going to be elected. Now, they knew the chair was likely going to be the old chair, Rusty Hicks. So I don't know if that was what their intention was there. But regardless, we now have to give, we have an opportunity to submit testimony through the California Democratic Party website. If you go to Rules Committee, there's a link there. You can submit testimony specifically to the subcommittee that deals with charter organizations. And you can write your 3 sentences. I support the chartering of this democratic organization. It does not overlap with the Arab American Caucus, and both should be allowed to continue. They kept on saying that there's some kind of an effort to understand, whether caucuses and charter organizations are different, or how are they different, or are they combined, and they want to have a bigger conversation. But it's been 9 months since we submitted our application properly, so they're clearly delaying and deferring and denying our right to become a charter club.
Would you send the link out?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's not, I was gonna overwhelm you with links, so I'll send it out. Yeah, I'll send it out. Thanks, Mom.
Do we know when AB 17 is being voted on in the Senate?
Does anybody know the exact date, Rob?
It's it's in development right now. We're waiting on exact time for it. Next couple of weeks?
It's gonna be very soon.
Oh, very soon, okay.
Yeah.
Are they on recess? I thought, are they on recess?
No.
generation?
No, this is the time. Right, this is, so there's a lot of backroom negotiation. We're trying to get the California Teachers, We're trying to get the California Teachers Association and some other big ones. They put the kibosh, or they stopped 1468. And they're holding they're keeping their powder dry right now, but they're in process of figuring that out. If they weigh in, that changes the calculus, right, politically. So
My understanding was that they were abstaining from weighing in, which is a big problem. But anyway, we don't know. And, we still have a few weeks to stop this bill. So please call your state senators. Okay, I think I've talked enough. Can we pass them?
I'll borrow the microphone for just a second. I've been given the happy task to introduce our next speaker. We are living in a historic moment where 40,000 children have been slaughtered in Gaza, and history is going to make a lot of demands of us. And I think when history looks back, whatever we've done, I'm sure the verdict will be it was not enough. And that's why, particularly on this day of all days, I'm excited to hear from our next speaker, who is the executive director of the Middle East Children's Association, or MECA. Alliance, also known as MECA. He is Ziad Shamrouk, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. مساء الخير. Yeah, I said good evening. Michael answered good morning in Arabic. Anyway, I start all the time with my language. I want the people all the time to remember that. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the organizers for inviting us. And of course, for us as Mecca, working here like in Berkeley for 37 years, right now Mecca, and we feel like any kind of activity, I see all the faces familiar. We are almost a big family here, and we see you everywhere, actually, from the streets with the mayor to the commissions. Oh, this is our life right now. It's a difficult day, to be honest with you, to start speaking about the work we do. At the same time, we are witnessing what's going on in Palestine, in Gaza Strip, what's going on right now in Iran, and this kind of attack. And it's really very hard to predict what will happen. What are like the coming few days, the coming few weeks, who's next, and how it will impact the whole world. Absolutely, there is something changing, not just in the Middle East, in the whole world. And one of the main things is changed is the value of the human being. It's not there anymore. It's not, I know, I feel privileged to be near lawyers. We Palestinians, we love lawyers. And immigrants, and of course, Michael here, another kind of protection. But when I say about it's very hard to predict what will happen and how it will impact us, that the meaning of international law, the meaning of the human rights, the values, it's not the same anymore. It wasn't, but right now it's more. It's clear for us. There are two types of people living on this earth. And one type, the hegemony, they are dehumanize the others. They can do what they want. And I know when we think about Iran, what's going on, it's simple. It's not just because it's Iran. The answer is because Palestine. Yes. And everything happening in the whole Middle East, it's because Palestine. And it's simple. I was talking with Michael. It's very difficult to think about the future. I'm a Palestinian. I was born and grew up in a refugee camp in Palestine, and I moved here 2008. And when I think about the future of Palestine, it's very hard, but I know, eventually we know, inside us as Palestinian, wherever we are. We know, we believe in that, we feel it, we see it soon. Palestine will be free very soon. I say very soon, even it's 77 years right now since the Israeli occupation. Before that, the British mandate. Before that, the Turkish, they were controlling us. So what your grandparents, 400 years, 500 years, yeah, we learned the history. But at the same time, for us, we are living the moment. And this is our duty, that we need to take the actions we need to take. And this is happening. United States bombed Iran, not just because Iran, there is something like against United States, despite the fact United States funded Iraq after the Islamic Revolution 1979. And the whole region, it's about, they don't want to have any independent country, independent state. They are standing with Palestine. They support Palestinian rights. And here it's not about religion. It's clear, it's the same plan for a long time. I'm not going to go that much deep about that. For us, we are watching the news. This is the fact we are living. The same for us as Palestinian, we are witnessing the genocide, never stopped. I came here, I was driving, I was listening to the news. They are still bombing in Gaza, they are still bombing in Tehran, in Iran, they are bombing in Lebanon, they are bombing in Syria. In these countries, and sometimes they bomb in Yemen. So you see how it is impacting and how things is moving. In any case, for Gaza, we as Mecca, I want to speak a little bit about our work. Even I know most of you, we know us, you know what we do. But the situation is getting very bad. And when we say getting very bad every day, we find out, no, it can get worse. And right now, since March 2nd, they don't allow any kind of trucks to get in. Mostly recently, they allowed some trucks to get in, but it's not enough. And Israel is still using the mass starvation as a weapon. They are using, even catching the moment, what we call it, because everyone focused on what's going on with Iran. And even this is what the people in Gaza, they say. It's hard to say, to think like for them, what will happen, how Israel used the moment and how it will impact them inside Gaza. Despite the number of the people, they are killed every day, every 24 hours, more than 100 people killed in Gaza. And most of these people, they are killed on what they call it, the food distribution stations, which it is funded and organized by United States and by Israel. And it's like a trap where they kill the people and they target. And the people in Gaza, they know the possibility to be killed, it's very high, but even they go. They try to get some more food to distribute it for their families and to survive. And the people at the same time, I will say, like, you have babies right now, they are not unable to access any kind of needs. Even their moms, they are not able to produce milk, no food. And this is actually, I repeat this all the time. My mom, during the Nakba in 1948, I have a brother, he was 2 weeks old when the Nakba happened, when my family uprooted from their village, Zakaria and Jrash. And my mom, she wasn't able to produce milk. So she used to take my brother to other mom. She was willing to produce milk. And she found out many other moms, the same case. So this mother, become a mother for many children at the same time. And this is what's happening in Gaza right now. And my mom's job in 1948 is to find food to that woman, so she continued to produce milk. And the same in Gaza Strip. This is something like coming like in daily life inside Gaza. For us as Mecca, we are still able to do some work in Gaza. We have our four kitchens still working. And to be honest with you, we have it another week. And after that, we will be out of anything. We produce between 25,000 hot meals a day. It's not enough. It's nothing. This number is nothing comparing what the people they need there. We still have the water system working, and we have trucks distributing the water inside Gaza for the displaced people. And this is summer. And it's really, really very hard in Gaza. You can't reach out to everyone living in Gaza, but they try, not only our organization, even other groups. Water, it's become a huge issue in summer. And of course, we have the other kind of services we do in the displaced camp where they collect the garbage. And to be honest with you, I love to speak about this because how much it's important for us. We have 55 donkeys. They help the people in Gaza. 55 donkeys, animals, donkeys, and they help. This is the way how the people right now, they don't allow the fuel to get in, no cars. And these donkeys like moving the stuff, do the distribution of water, and do the distribution of food when it's possible, and help to collect the garbage from displaced refugee camps and protect the people from different kind of disease. So the genocide is going on in Gaza. I hope it will stop, and it's in our duty. Right now, we have extra tasks in our shoulders as people living in the United States. Everything happening in that region right now, we are responsible about it, not just our tasks. Our government, our people, our political parties, we need to change this reality. I don't want to talk that much, but this is the action all the time we need to continue to do. And this is the only possibility. And when you speak with the people in Gaza, they say, yeah, we know governments, they are not standing with us, even United Nations, etc. The only supporters for us, the people. And this is when we speak about solidarity movement. Thank you.
Would you like to say something about the bike ride that's coming up?
Are you coming to bike with us?
I'm not, but Craig here went last time.
I see. That's great. Thank you, guys. Yeah, we have many activities in Mecca. We have the ride, the bike ride. It's been the 4th year, annual year, now in Berkeley, and it's become regular. It will be in July 20th, where it will be not just biking. It will be a big festival in solidarity with Palestine. So go check the table. I am here with my colleague, Christy in the back. There are more information about the ride. And if you are interested, you can register. Yes?
Yeah, I rode in the bike ride last year, and I just want to impress upon everybody what a joyful opportunity it was to do something for the people so directly, because Mecca is right in there with people directly on the ground. So I myself I rode with my daughter and my granddaughter, so 3 generations. We raised $1,000, and it's a beautiful event. There were about 300-400 riders, I think, last year. I think there will be more this year. And at the end, there's a big feast with donated food, Palestinian youth and dancers. And it's really a beautiful thing, and I encourage anybody to get involved either as riders or as donors, because I'm sure we all know somebody that will be riding that they're going to hand out a letter to you to donate to them and sponsor that person, all right? And even anybody wants to ask me more questions about it after the meeting, feel free.
Thank you so much. You did it better than me, man.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
I'm just curious, what else can we do to support Mecca? Like, is more fundraising necessary? I mean, obviously, when the food can't get in, it can't get in. But what if anything, can we do?
Thank you so much. Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm a Palestinian. The idea, all the time, we ask the people to do more actions. Take more actions on the ground, organize, do whatever you can do. The second thing, absolutely, yeah, the food is not getting there. We have 80 trucks stuck in the borders in Cairo. But to be more clear, we have 7,640 trucks stuck, not as Mecca, all the organization, United, everyone is stuck outside, they don't allow them. We as Mecca, we have just 80 trucks. I know it's hard to ship anything from here to Gaza or from anywhere in the world, but still, we know in certain moment they will open, they will allow it. So when we ask the people to support Mecca, to donate and support us, we are ready. We catch the moment and we jump in. And this is what happened with us when it was October 7th. It was happened. We know what will happen. We learned from our own experience and the people in Gaza. And to be honest with you, the majority of the staff, Mecca staff, they are in Gaza. We have 15 staff members. They are local people. They know what's going on. And we learned from 2008, 2009 attack, 2012, 2014, 2018, 2021. So there were many attacks. We learned when October 7th happened, October 8th, we were in the ground. We were distributing, preparing for the shelters from milk, blankets, etc. And right now we are waiting for the moment when if they open, we will be there and to try to help. Still, yeah, the people, they can continue more, continue organize. This is the most important, the actions, and mobilize. We need to mobilize, we need to educate. America is not, to be honest with you, this is something we need to do more and more to mobilize. And the second thing, yeah, continue support and for the right moment when it comes.
Thank you so much.
I'm not the most graceful person. Hey, you all. Okay, I could probably do this without the microphone. I just want to say something really quick before I introduce Rob, and I'm going to kind of read this because we just met. I was with Joanna and the crew at the convention at CADM, and I want to let you all know that the title of that resolution that we fought for 2 days finally got through. The title actually said that it supported the Constitution of the United States of America, the right to free speech, the right to protest, and the right to due process. That was the title of the resolution that we were fighting for. So I'm glad we prevailed, but damn, it should not be that hard. Yeah, that was, I've been going to conventions since I got involved in party politics in 2016. That was by far the most painful convention I have ever been at. It was just exhausting. So thanks to all of you who came, and God, Joanna, thank you. You and Mervette, you guys rock. Okay, so on up to my actual task at hand here. Okay, so I just met Rob. My friend David Mandel up in Sacramento put the two of us together. Rob is with Jewish Voices for Peace, an organization near and dear to most of our hearts, probably all of our hearts. So he was a very early member and founder of the Jewish Voices for Peace. Said there was like 12 of them. He was on the first JWP board. He is a frequent columnist for JVP Muzzle Watch, and I don't know if I'm going to do, is it Mondovice or Mondovice? Mondovice, Muzzle Watch. He was an ISM, which is International Solidarity Movement, participant in 2002 during the Second Intifada. He co-started the Northern California ISM. He is a previous poet laureate for Richmond. And I'm going to blow this last one. He's working as a spatial epidemiologist. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Studying. What are you studying? Because I'm not sure if I. Violence. Okay. The spelling got kind of messed up because I was like, what is this? No, you're totally fine. Okay. So without further ado, thank you, Rob, for being here. Who's my, oh, do you have your okay, who's up? There you go. Somebody's missing a mic.
I'm taking it home.
So, thank you so much for having me here, and I'm really kind of humbled by being on a panel like this. I have real world, but my world is poetry. So I'll open with that, and then I'll say some things. But this is the kind of moment we organize. This is why I'm so happy to be here as well. The kinds of work that we're trying to go in a way that's more broad across different kinds of, not constituencies, but labor, like this kind of our revolution, the DSA, you name it. We all have to work together because it's a time of punching Nazis, literally. And the left, the class-based left, is always what fascists go after first. And it's really important that we try to organize against that. So that's sort of my general I can walk away now. No, but I'm going to read a poem. Typically, if I do readings and they're more politically related, I'm not going to read a bunch of poems. This is not my poem. This is from Wilfred Owen. He died in World War I, an amazing poet. You may have heard of this. It's called The Parable of the Old Man and the Young. So Abram rose and clave the wood and went and took the fire with him and a knife. And as they sojourned, both of them together, Isaac, the firstborn, spake and said, My father, behold the preparations, fire and iron, but where the lamb for this burnt offering? Then Abram bound the youth with belts and straps and builded parapets and trenches there, and stretched forth the knife to slay his son. When lo, an angel called him out of heaven, saying, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do anything to him. Behold, a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. Offer the ram of pride instead of him. But the old man would not so, but slew his son and half the seed of Europe, one by one. So it's a little grim. It's sort of think we're there in a lot of ways. So I've been working on these issues of Palestine, Middle East since the mid 80s, sort of after 82 when Sabra and Shatila happened. I'm going to talk about this more organizationally because I think that's why we're here. To think about what we can do as opposed to confirming what we already know, because I think all of you are at least as knowledgeable about this as I am. So good to see Carol. Oh, she was one, you've been here a long time too with JVP, and I remember that. Yeah, and I remember us talking, you asking questions about what we were doing and trying to, that was very important at the time, and I'll tell you why. We started up, the original group of 3 or 4 were students at UC Berkeley. They started around 1996. Lincoln and the 2 Julias. And 98 is when I started getting involved. There's about 12 to 14 of us. I have the original contact list. I have the original post office key too. Oh my God, it's been a long time. But the whole point, I'm a very hard lefty. I call myself an anarchist in the classic sense. And by far, I was a non/anti-Zionist then. There was like 6 of us in the world, in the US. And most of the other people were disappointed Zionists. They were trying to figure out where to go in this world. They were disaffected, they were alienated, and they knew it was really bad then. We all knew that. And so I was one of the people that said, no, we're not taking a position on Zionism, even though I was by far had the most left opinion, on that. And there was a reason for it. It had to do with this idea of organizing. We weren't going to have anyone coming into JVP if we were saying you have to be anti-Zionist. There was, again, 6 of us. And so we left that open. That was on purpose, and that's something I really pushed for. I wasn't trying to push back because I was only anti-Zionist in the room and at that point in our group. And also, people didn't even know what settler colonialism was. That's how, I'm going to use the word ignorant, not in a pejorative way, but people were just not understanding of the situation. We were, whatever word works. I'm using, that's great. But the point was that a lot of us were brought up, I was brought up as a kind of reform, conservative Jewish guy, had my bar mitzvah. We drank the mother's milk of Zionism. And so we had to come out of that. I mean, similarly in Israel, seriously. So it was very important to be gentle in that regard. And so up until they finally made the decision, because it just became important for the organization in 2019 to say, yeah, we're anti-Zionist. And it slowly changed from most people being disappointed left Zionists, let's call it that, to more and more anti-Zionists over the years. But that's, we started JVP, it was 27 years ago. I can't even believe I'm saying that. But those were that was a really important decision. It allowed us to grow. Another thing that allowed us to grow right before Carol came, we made it a focus that US support of Israel was our target, because we didn't have a target. We just said the occupation sucks. And that helped us grow through the second Intifada. And that was in the early 2000s. And those two things were really important organizationally. It was, and by the way, it's lucky. JVP right now, Stephanie Fox, the person who is the director now, executive director, she said, and I'll just take it as the numbers, 750,000 members or supporters and about 100,000 in California. So that's where we are with this. Let's say it's half that, okay? I mean, that's amazing. I just conservatively, let's say half that. Well, for me, because I try and think more organizationally and also politically, so well, that's a lot of people. I'd say half of them are really left. They understand class and race as these very important basic units in terms of political analysis. A lot of them aren't. They're just really, I call them liberal, but very heartfelt against what's going on, right? Totally fine. But there's a lot of people that are left. So why aren't we, at this moment in time, helping? And I'm pushing for this through National JVP to push for more organizational coordination across labor and political parties, political groups, because we're all working in the same boat. For example, the JVP California has a legislative committee, and we're now coordinating Southern California and Northern California with JVP, but also, I mean, you all know about the legislation, and we can imagine that growing, so we coordinate our movements. And that just makes sense. And we're trying to make that more explicit because we're informally, obviously there's a lot of labor, a lot of union involvement, and we get that. But it's informal. Yes, these people have called, blah, 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 but there's no explicit call for this unified front. Who knows if it'll happen in JVP, but I'm patient. I mean, no one thought JVP would be this big. I've always been the bomb thrower, so to speak, there. And because I push for things, and I'm oftentimes on the outs with more people that are more quote unquote liberal or more organizationally kind of oriented, and that's fine. You have to be really patient and tolerant in these groups. And that being said, I always said, you know, every day Palestinians are living under horrible oppression and violence. That's just the day-to-day of just, that's the, as you know, that's the normal day. And then you have genocide. And now what's going on with ethnic cleansing in the West Bank and Massacre Yatta and all those places, right? One of the reasons I know a lot about the West Bank is I was there, I have a lot of friends. I was one of the organizers for ISM and this other group called FASA this last year that were getting volunteers in for protective presence. And so there's a lot of stuff happening. And it does, the way I try to deal with this is with other people and not be on my own and say, what do I do? What do I do? By the way, Mecca, Barbara and I are close friends. She sponsored my second trip in 2002 as part of ISM. I mean, Mecca did. And that was great. And we've given talks together over the years. And so, yeah, and I saw her close down a talk at the Berkeley Civic Theater when Netanyahu came to speak. He was out of power at the time, and then he was coming to speak. And, you know, it was part of the speaker series. You know, we'll invite, you know, like, John Denver, I'm just making that up. And we'll invite, you know, Jon Stewart and Benjamin Netanyahu. So she literally shut it down. There was a group of people that pushed through the barricades and they had to cancel it. That's Barbara. Anyway, so I'm here to talk, not to talk at you, but to let you know this. I'm very interested in this kind of collaboration. I was looking at what the largest socialist groups in the US are like the DSA, I guess. I mean, whether there's, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you know, Bernie, I'm sorry, I know, he's confused. He's a politician. And I was on his campaigns of 16 and 20 as well. Yeah, and yes, exactly. He's the most left we have in the U.S. So that's the thing I'll leave you with. We're in the belly of the beast. This is fascism, and it's not just the U.S., but the U.S. is the head of the global North that was mentioned earlier, and that's what we're fighting against. And by the way, it's happening. All that stuff you hear about over there. I mean, Trotsky said it very clearly. He said, "You might not be interested in war, but war is interested in you." Okay, so that's where we are, and I'm glad to be in a group of people that understand that. One last thing, I have poets. Sorry, I brought a bunch of my books that if people want to buy, that's for donation to support what's going on here. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I just want to mention that we have T-shirts by donation, and Mecca has a table with amazing stuff here, and please buy something. Okay, here we. This is amazing. I'm just very blown away by this panel. Okay, the next speaker is my dear friend Nagin Masad, and I've known her kind of around since 2016 in the Bernie days, and again in 2020. And then we served together on the Berkeley Tenants Union for quite a while. She is out there doing the work more than any one person that I know. She says so many people are, yes, but she's pretty special in what she does. We worked together on Javanka's campaign. Yeah. During the daytime, she's a physical therapist, and she owns and runs the Berkeley Community Physical Therapy place up here on University. And she's got quite a reputation at that. And right after the Palestinians were invaded in October of almost 2 years ago, day one after that, she was a very strong person in the movement towards freeing Palestine. And she's now, with some other people, formed a group, Berkeley Network of Palestinians. And I was close. Okay, so welcome, Nagin.
So much. Thank you, Carol. Wow, I feel really humbled to be here on this panel and almost like I should be over there, but I'm really grateful for this movement. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful for Palestine. You know, the geostrategic world order, you may not know I'm Iranian, and these are hard days for me, but they're also days that I can say I've expected my whole life since being 8 and the revolution happened. And that was the last great revolution of our lifetime, where the whole ruling class was swept away and the lower echelons of society took power and created something totally new. And of course, there's a lot of controversy about it because there's struggles of power, and Islamic order, you know, kind of took, although the revolution was all across the board, communist, Marxist. Khomeini was in prison with Marxists, and he is completely down with Marxist theory. He can tell you all about Stalin and Trotsky. So these are people who created a whole new order in Iran, and that's the problem. The problem is when you get outside of the thumb of that colonial world order and decide you want to run your own destiny. That's not okay, especially if you are an oil-producing nation. And this geostrategic world order that is shifting right now, kind of like in World War II, will be the establishment of the new world. And there are the forces of fascism, colonialism and imperialism, which will not let go, no matter what our children want, and they realize that climate change is coming, and so many other things, and that human beings have reached a point where they understand the fallacy of the world that's been built around capitalism and the necessity to constantly produce more surplus and more profit for a small handful of people, and how false it is and how damning it is for the rest of us. Anyway, I'm sure you all understand and know that. And the reality is the Republicans are playing it out right now, something that's probably been practiced by the Democrats too. As we know, Hillary Clinton was yesterday there with Trump, letting everyone know why Iran had to be bombed. When nuclear facilities are bombed, it reduces gamma rays in the atmosphere. Now, luckily, Iran was thoughtful enough. They think they're playing with a bunch of fools, but I don't know. I think the Islamic Republic has something under their belt, and they have a lot of practice. 40 some odd years of practice against the empire. And so they moved it, but it's like they could have released massive amounts of gamma rays and created another Chernobyl, and they don't have any apology for that. It's a stunning situation just to fathom. Anyway, one of the other things that I think I hear a lot, which really I want to just speak to, is the fact of these proxies of the Islamic Republic, that somehow Hamas, the resistance in Palestine, Hezbollah, the resistance in Lebanon, and the Houthis and Hamas are proxies of Iran. Well, some of these organizations have been around longer than the Islamic Republic. So that in and of itself is a way that they're trying to feed this concept to us that people of another world order, of another color, of another whole different background don't have the wherewithal to think for themselves and not want to be ruled by you. Yes, no. The Khamenei does not pull the strings of Hamas and Hezbollah. It's kind of like saying Germany and France are proxies of America. And in fact, they kind of are. But it's like they are a whole nation in and of themselves, and they can think by themselves. And that's what America wants us to believe, that people of the Middle East, brown people in general, Islamic people can't think, and they can't control their own lives and their own destinies. It has to be done for them. Anyway, enough about what I'm thinking about in my mind every day and how grateful I am to live in this time, and how I realize that the power of the individual is so important here, and that people will come and say, oh, they've already decided our destiny. We just are slaves here. We have to do what they say. And no, I know the history, and I know Malcolm X existed. And I know so many people in Iran and other revolutionaries, Che Guevara, people like that existed. The individual can do so much. I mean, Fidel decided he was going to have a revolution, and he did it right in a Mexican prison cell. So it is possible, and the power of the individual is what they want to take away from us. The fact that we have that energizing potential to galvanize so many other things and to create a new world and to shape that future. And it's our turn right now to show them that we will win. And this is a moment that we all need to realize our individual power. And so that's where I want to come into Berkeley Network for Palestine. I'm so grateful to live in Berkeley. I'm so grateful to have so many Palestinian comrades and to know the story of Palestine long before October 7th. But we were all already kind of organized because we had to deal with the Berkeley City Council and all of the bullshit that we have to go through every day because, yeah, our city council members don't represent us, and they represent a system of order about just development and capital and producing more for a small number of people here in Berkeley, and they are beholden to that. And so we were already there, already clamoring and upset and, pounding away and being there to deliver public comment. And suddenly October 7th happened. And I remember, I think that week, October 12th or whatever it was, maybe 7th was a Saturday, 8th, 9th, 10th. On Tuesday, I spoke already because they had already started massacring Palestinians by the hordes, and it was unbelievable. And of course, right away, our mayor decided, no, we're not going to have this. He was controlled by the Zionist lobby. Of course, he had already taken his trip to Israel, and I'm sure you guys all know the history, but we decided to start organizing at a very small level, at the city council level, and we decided to control messaging and media. And Ilana has a few posters that we designed. First, we had an idea to represent all the martyrs, and we had say their name, and we started with the most famous martyrs, and every week we'd get in city council and we'd say their names and we'd have their posters and we'd stand up, and it went viral, and Jesse was all up in arms, and we stopped so many city council meetings. And then we went to the children, all the children who were slaughtered. And then finally, we wanted to educate more and more before, and we have messaging that describes what Zionism is, the history of Zionism, and basically expanding on that from, the day of the Nakba and way before, on the Balfour Declaration. So we have a lot of media messaging and connecting community towards Palestine, all of it. And also, we're trying to help support Palestine financially through Project Hope and other projects that we support. We are now doing flyering and pamphleting all summer long. This is our Summer for Palestine, and we just have this Palestine 101. It's not that complicated. And we're starting from the Nakba and till today, very easy for people that don't know anything about Palestine, and hitting all the Juneteenth festivals, all the Pride parades, all the different festivals all summer long to educate more people, because that's what it takes, critical mass. As soon as people are aware that the same apparatus of control that's been on top of the Palestinians and surveillance is now being perpetrated on us, and the same companies, the same Israeli companies, the same Zionist companies are now taking our information and controlling our lives, and they connect the dots. They want to know where to sign up and what to do. So if you guys are interested in helping us, and we also are involved in trying to make people understand boycott, divestment, sanctions. Some of my comrades are here tonight. We've been really hitting it out there and talking to as many people as we can about this. And if you guys are interested, please sign up to join us at Berkeley Network for Palestine to do this Summer for Palestine all out.
Right here, we're gonna send around.
We have people that are gonna be collecting signatures, and I won't take any more of your time, and I'm so grateful to everyone here, and I'm grateful to our revolution. Thank you, Carol, for asking me to speak.
The BDS flyers and the little educational pamphlet, you probably don't need it.
Richard, go ahead.
Is over here, and please take it. And this trifold, about divesting your pharmacy.
Yes, yes.
Divesting the pharmacy, and so we can do this, because a lot of medications come from Israel. So this is all for you.
Go Richard Lee.
Thank you, Nagin, and thank you all, the panel, for being here. This has been amazing. Just hearing all of your guys' insights, this has been really, really great. And then, as you all notice, our last individual and speaker on this panel is a really great one, Reverend Michael Yoshi. He is a retired pastor at the Buena Vista United Methodist Church in Alameda. He's also the co-chair of the Friends of Wodi Fokin group, which is an official committee of the United Methodist Church. Wodi Fokin, for folks, is a Palestinian village on the West Bank that is currently under Israeli occupation. So that committee is doing really, really important work to build that relationship and sort of see how we can be helpful there. But the church, and maybe this is not exclusive to the Buena Vista Church in Alameda, but started out as sort of a space in 1898 for folks of the Japanese American immigrant and Christian community. And as we all know, during World War II, a lot of folks in that community were persecuted, were labeled the enemy of the people, Reverend Yoshi's parents were, along with many other Japanese American immigrants, thrown into internment camps and concentration camps. But the point being, there's a lot of lived experience and a lot of trauma and persecution that is now being repeated in history. And a lot of folks in our communities have seen this before, have lived through this before, are very sympathetic and understand, you know, the plight of the Palestinian people and what folks are going through right now. And so, you know, Reverend Yoshi himself has been an advocate in the East Bay for over 40 years. He's been a very active community member, and we're very, very glad he's here with us today. So I'll turn it over to you, Reverend.
Now it's on. Testing. Okay. You had said your microphone's on the ground. I was saying I want to let it take a nap, you know, to rest a little bit until I have to speak. Thank you, Richard, for that introduction, and it's good to be here with our fellow comrades here on the stage. And I want to start with saying thank you for letting me go last, Carol. I asked Carol if I can go last because Ashley Austin and I were at the church today for a memorial service. And as you know about those kind of things, you don't know how long they're going to go. And I wasn't sure if I was going to make it here on time. But it's to say, too, that, you know, in church communities, we do a lot of different things. You know, we're there for people from the cradle to the grave and beyond, and all the activities that go on around us. And as I share some introductory remarks, I was listening to Rob invoke the presence of Barbara Lubin. And so I want to just share a quick story as a way of introduction. So the congregation I served, as Richard said, is historically Japanese American, started in 1898. And in the early 2000s, I think it was around the second Intifada, there were folks that wanted to start us engaging with the Palestine issue. And so who did I call? Barbara Lubin, because I heard of Mecca's reputation. And I called Barbara on the phone and said, we'd like you to help resource us in terms of starting to organize here. And Barbara was so angry and said, you churches are good for nothing. And she hung up the phone. And I said, holy cow, she's pretty good. Because she was calling it, because she was calling us out as churches, because many of our churches are good for nothing when it comes to Palestine. I mean, there's so much deep seated misunderstanding, I think, in church circles around who Palestinians really are. And many Christians here have had to be informed by Palestinian Christians, by being engaged with Palestinians there in Palestine, and then being corrected on what the multi-layers of misinformation that churches espouse. And so it's a very uphill climb in congregations. I think over the years when we started organizing with Palestine, we were probably one of the only congregations around that I knew that was able to sustain engagement with Palestine advocacy and solidarity. For me, it began with our liaison to Palestine calling us together in 2006. And she called Methodists together for a conference as she was finishing her tenure. She spent 10 years there, and in 2006 she was wrapping it up. And she called us from across the country to become aware of the BDS movement that was just being launched. And she asked us to begin to go back to your conferences. We're organized in different states, to go back to your different conferences and organize task forces so we can begin to organize nationally and internationally as the BDS movement gets launched. And so that's what we did. I went with another person in California, Nevada, which is our Northern California conference. And we came back, we organized a task force in Northern California. And then there were about 8 or 9 other conferences across the country. In 2010, when Kairos Palestine was issued, how many of you know Kairos Palestine? Okay, maybe half of you. Kairos Palestine was the Palestinian Christian word to the world about the reality that people were living under. And it was modeled after the South African Kairos document in 1985 that was issued in the middle of the Free South Africa movement. And so they were very inspired by what the South Africans had done, and they got together. It took them a good year to come to agreements on a statement, and they issued it to the world, but in particular to those of us as Christians around the world as well, to be engaged and to study, but also act upon things. And it was an implicit endorsement of the BDS movement. And the way they put it, it was to be engaged in economic activism around the reality that Palestinians were living under. And so we convened in 2010, which has become something now called United Methodist Kairos Response. We took the name of Kairos as the name of the group that we organized, and that was our international body for United Methodist Network to work on divestment at our highest levels of the church, of the global church, where we have had to engage with our Board of Pensions on divestment actions over the years. I think Susan was asking me if we had passed a resolution on Caterpillar, Motorola, and HP that most denominations were trying to engage in. We were never able to get our body to pass that. And the best we did over the course of the years was to have them create a new policy where there would be no investments in occupied settlement areas. And so that was in 2015, I believe, where we then divested from real estate companies and banks doing business in the occupied territories. So that was our victory, where the Presbyterians were able to pass their Caterpillar, Motorola, and HP resolution. I can't remember what the year was. But last year, the Methodists also passed a resolution to divest from Israeli bonds. And so the problem for us, though, is that we can have the body pass a resolution, but then it has to go to our Board of Pensions. So we're dealing with a massive institution when it comes to the divestment work. What I've been doing in the last few years since I retired in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. And what that meant was I couldn't go back to the church I was serving at Buena Vista, because Methodists have a protocol that you stay away to allow the new pastor to come in and develop relationships with people. So I call it the Methodist exile. And my exile ended last year when a new pastor was appointed, who I know. He's from Cambodia. Really wonderful guy. You have to come and meet him. Very, very energetic and prophetic in his words. But he invited me to come back and become pastor emeritus. So then I could then come back and identify as being part of the church. So I've been able to come back. And some of you may have known the folks who were trying to come from Safragata a couple of weeks ago and who got detained at the airport and got sent back. They were supposed to come and speak at our church at Buena Vista a couple of weeks ago. And we went ahead with that event, even though they couldn't make it. In fact, it was folks from ISM trips, protected presence trips, that had gone to Masafriata that spoke on behalf of the two gentlemen who couldn't make it into the country. So we did that a couple of weeks ago. Today, I'm thinking about my father, who was 21. Richard talked about the mass incarceration of Japanese Americans. He actually lived in Oakland with his father and mother and had a restaurant in Oakland on the corner of Grand and West 22nd. If you go drive down San Pablo, it's San Pablo and West and Grand now. There's an empty lot there, and then there's a lot of tent encampments. But they had a little restaurant there, and it turned out to be what I think in his last 5 years of life, he talked about that a lot, because that was, I think, his kind of the time where he really enjoyed life, because their restaurant was a community place that served all the folks in the neighborhood. People would drop by all the time. He said people would come bring these posters for the boxing matches over at the Oakland Auditorium, and he loved all that. But he passed away at 102 years old 2 years ago. And he passed away on October 8th. October 8th, the very next day after October 7th. I was with people who were organizing our rally over at Golden Gate Bridge, and then my dad passed away, and I was dealing with this grief that I couldn't understand or identify what was what. Was it, the Gazans I was weeping over in the morning, or was it my father's passing? And I just decided it doesn't matter, Grief is grief, and we're dealing with a universal sense of grief going on in the world. And it became clear to me, and I think the others of us that were organized at that time, that Palestine has become the moral compass of the world. I mean, much like Vietnam was for us back in the day, Palestine is at that center of the moral compass, and that everything must pivot from what is happening with Palestinians. And we've seen from these efforts going on from city council to city council, where many have been getting rebuffed by council members who just don't get it or don't want to get it. But the message continues to be loud and clear that Palestine is the moral compass. We have to keep coming back to those council meetings. We have to keep coming back to every situation in which we're advocating for until people get the point, because ultimately, as Ziad has said, ultimately it will happen. Palestine will be free because it is a moral compass of the times that we're living in. It's just a matter of time as to when that's going to happen and what circumstances it's going to take place under. I appreciate what Negin was saying about her perspectives as an Iranian, because for me, the reason why I'm thinking about my father today is because I've been on the phone with our partner folks in Wadi Fuqin. It's a small village, about 1,500 people. Ziad knows them well because they went to Dheisheh refugee camp where Ziad grew up in the West Bank. And when I've brought people over here from Wadi Fuqin, we've come to visit Ziad because they know each other. It's a small community. Yeah, they connect and appreciate their connection with one another. But I'm thinking about my father today because I was in conversation with our friends in Wadi Fuqin about what's happening right now, particularly with this intersection with Israel and their assault on Iran. And the situation is so difficult because things are so bad as it is, and then, oh no, now we have another war going on. The Iraq war was hard for them at that particular time, and now Iran is very difficult because there's a lockdown in the village. People are struggling. People who had some modicum of income have nothing now. And so what they want to do with us is asking us to help support some emergency funds to help 20 families that they've identified that are most in need at this particular point in time. And I think about that because it's not a big scale kind of thing of organizing. It's just helping people survive right now. It's about people on the ground needing, medical supplies, needing basically food for the day. And I think about what my father went through and how over the course of time, I think it's in his passing that I understand him better now, because I didn't understand some of the things that he had talked about when he was alive, because I had a different political perspective about things. He was a survivalist. He was there as a caregiver to help everybody in the family. My uncle got his arm blown off in the war because he served in the US military in the European theater. When he came back, his arm was blown off. My grandfather, was so upset. And my father had to take over kind of taking over the family stuff. And also with our extended family, he was the one to take care of all the things with our extended families and all my cousins. And that's why today I see that better, how all my cousins and extended family, they really have looked up to him and really had good relationships with him. And I see that so much with our work with Palestinians as well. The communities, the families where extended families are there helping each other out the best that they can, and people begin forming relationships with others that they maybe didn't know that would happen. And they become friends over the course of time. And in my father's case, I could see in retrospect how they had friends from different communities who helped them during the wartime, because they didn't know what was going to happen. When he left at the age of 21 and his family went to Topaz, Utah, one of the incarceration camps, they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know the war was going to last for 4 years. They didn't know how long it was going to last. And so they went through this doorway, a sort of a portal of experience that they weren't sure what the way out was going to be or where the way out could be. And fortunately for them, the war ended after those 4 years. And my father and his family were able to come back actually to Berkeley. From Oakland, they came back to Berkeley, and they were able to find a place to live in West Berkeley, where I grew up on 6th and Channing, which we called, the West End of Alameda. We didn't go over the other side of San Pablo because that was a foreign territory. And then I began to understand that South Berkeley was gentrified. Not gentrified, it was redlined because they had the South Berkeley area where there was redlining for the Black community as well as for the Japanese community. That's where the concentration of Japanese were, over in South Berkeley. We had about 4 families in West Berkeley. The rest was a Black community, pretty much. So that was the context that we grew up in and that I grew up in there in West Berkeley. But it's all to say, too, that I wanted to appreciate what Negin was saying about her perspective on what's happening now with Iran, because I'm feeling like the situation right now, and I think we know it's reminiscent of the invasion into Iraq at that particular time. You know, in Iraq, there was all this talk about weapons of mass destruction and Colin Powell going to the UN and presenting all this information that we knew in retrospect now that was all, you know, a bunch of lies. And right now, Trump doesn't even pretend to lie, right? You know, he doesn't even pretend to lie about anything, but this is what's happening. And as Ziad was saying, Palestine is right in the middle of all this. And so for us in this, our work with our friends in the West Bank, we're very concerned that there's things happening right now where the end movement of the settler colonialism is taking place. I was telling Ziad that we're working on this thing called the Jerusalem Metropolitan Bill, which is a bill that would annex settlement blocks north, east, and south of Jerusalem to expand the footprint of the municipality of Jerusalem. Wadi Fokina is located in that southern settlement block. So that settlement block would be annexed if they pass it. It was introduced in March. It's supposed to come back sometime this summer. It was introduced in 2017, but through international pressure, it was pushed back and they didn't move on it. And we're hoping that through our work, we can help make some headway into stopping that from happening again this time. But at the same time, too, and yeah, we're having this good conversation about it, that, well, some of our Palestinian friends say, well, so what? I mean, we're already being annexed. Who cares what they do? Because this is just legal stuff that they're doing, and maybe we ought to just let them do it and then see what's going to happen in the next phase of things as well. But we're also trying to pay attention to the Area C annexation plan that was already passed by the Israeli cabinet, which is going to not allow Palestinians to register their land and then give settlers the permission and the privilege of registering land for their names and their families. And so all these building blocks and dominoes of the takeover of the West Bank is really happening. What we hope doesn't happen is that it happens under the radar screen while people now have their attention on Iran and Israel and a growing, larger war that's taking place as well. For me, the last thing I want to say as well is that my mother-in-law was one of the hibaksha, what we call survivors of the A-bomb in 1945. And so I'm getting calls because there's going to be some programs going on in Livermore this coming August. And they were the victims of that genocidal assault of thousands of people who were killed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, August 6th and August 9th, 1945. That's part of our family story as well. And what we see happening now with all of this conversation about nuclear armaments, you know, for Iran that doesn't even want to have nuclear arms, right? What is happening now, and this is kind of a question I wanted to ask maybe to Rob, is you're talking about we need to have a united front. What is happening now in terms of our peace movement or our anti-war movement? What happened to it? I mean, we know that when Obama got elected, there was a very strong anti-war movement that helped him get elected because we wanted to get out of Iraq. People were organized. But once he got elected, that dissipated. And what I'm waiting for is to see who are the people and the organizations, the groups that begin to organize a new anti-war movement that is not just focused on the bigger picture of the regional interests of different actors in war, but also being able to center Palestine in that anti-war movement. Because we know historically, anti-war movements in the United States have always had gatekeeping, not allowing Palestinian voices to be there in that call for peace and justice and ending of war. And I feel like because Palestine is the moral compass of where we are today, the new peace movement, the new anti-war movement, has to have Palestinian voices at the center of that. Because that's where the understanding of what's really taking place will help us both understand the bigger picture of what's taking place, but also help us understand why it is the moral compass of the day. Because it all fits together and it's all connected in one way or another in all that's taking place. So those are my thoughts today. Thank you, Kara, for letting me go last.
Wow. What do you think? Can we have another? One more thing?
I want to say one other thing. I'm sure people here went to No Kings rallies, right? How many of those No Kings rallies had Palestinian voices there? I'm in Alameda. The Alameda rally had a lot. I mean, for them, it was 3,000 people. It was a lot of people. But some of our local allies on Palestine advocacy said they went there, asked the organizers to have a table in Palestine, said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that." This is the issue we need to be pushing on, okay? Because people's eyes right now are on what's going on with this Trump administration. But what are the cracks in and the crevices to push on people to include the Palestinian voices?
Rob, do you have something too?
I think this is the crux. This is why I'm here to talk to participate here, because that's all liberal crap. I mean, there's no sign up, there's no planned activities after, there's no planned organizations. These are all vaguely left liberal groups, and they're essentially sucking energy out of our ability to organize. And part of that is because we don't have a left analysis. What does that mean? Am I being a radical? I am a radical, but no. It's literally saying unions matter, labor matters, class matters. And none of these groups care about that. These are all effectively, let's call it the left-ish part of the Democratic Party.
Nice Democrats is what I call them.
Yeah, but
Nice.
the idea is liberals have signs, they have lawn signs, they have bumper stickers. The idea of the Tesla, the guy driving the Tesla says, yeah, I bought it before I knew. You know, sell the fucking car. If they're not, don't put a bumper sticker on it. And that's an exemplar of where we are. And it's like, what's going on? What's the mystery? Part of it as well, the Vietnam peace movement, there was a draft. But this is far worse right now. This is far worse than Vietnam. I'm sorry, it's just where we are. And that's why I'm so strongly pushing for an organized, class-based, union labor-based kind of front. Anyway, I just wanted to.
Well, Rob, I have to say that I agree with you to a point. The other part of it is that we've gotten lots of people out on the street that have never, ever thought about protesting anything.
Yeah.
So I think what our job is, if you all agree with me, is to take that energy and those people, some of those people have never, ever voted against anything, have never spoken up. And they're saying, okay, I'm not happy about what's going on, but I don't know what to do about it. And I think that's our job.
That's what I'm saying. And we have to be very on point. The hands-off thing, part one of the signs was hands off our NATO. Think about that. That was one of their points in their campaign. I'm just saying. And then when I went to the Oakland, I did it. I knew what I was going to see. Maybe 1 out of 100 people was wearing a keffiyeh.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were.
I know. We all were. I know you all were. But my point is that was a liberal thing, and then we had the weird little tables with the Maoists and other things like that. So.
No, I think, Ioana and I and Susanna and a bunch of you went to the convention. And every time we go to the convention, there are those people that we fight against that are supposed to be on our side. And the same with the people that were in the street, especially the people in Alameda, I have to say, because I was there. And Berkeley.
I'm really grateful that you brought that up about the King's Rally, because we had some people from BMP, Paula right here, who was able to use our literature and stuff there. And she's like, the papers just went because the education moment is there. We're ready to be there. And that's what our organizing is about. Being there right at the right time, at the given moment to educate, messaging, being.
Okay, our second half of the program, this is just the first half. Well, is we're going to talk about organizing. We're going to talk about how we take this energy, whether it's a little bit of energy with the nice Democrats or some of our good energy, like Negin and what they're doing.
Before you guys leave. movie before whatever. I'm working on a CalSTRS Divest program that
Yes.
has $1.3 billion invested in the yuck. And we can use as many signatures before we go head on with the board. So if you guys, either you could go to calstrsdivest.org or see me and sign the petition. And yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get to the organizing in just 1 minute, but I also have to say that I'm the commercial. So you know when you're watching a movie and it says there's an ad break. Okay, I'm the ad break, and basically, this is a wonderful program. We need to get information out to a lot of people, and unfortunately, like every single group, we don't have a lot of money. So if we want to keep the lights on, we would love to have you join our organization, which is our revolutioneastbay.org, to join us. And the more we have people join us, the more voices we have and the more powerful we are.
Yes.
And then this room, which is so gorgeous. Oh my God, I'd like to have so many things here. Cost us money. They were very nice in setting it all up, and it's a gorgeous space. So we have donation table back there and one over here. And so the pizza costs money. So I know everybody asks you for money. And I get so sick and tired every time of you give $5 and then they say, "Oh my God, you gave me $5, so now give me 100." You know, but we don't have that money. The people who have the money are the people that are against us. And unfortunately, it costs money to do this stuff. It costs money to print stuff. It costs money to get halls. It costs money to bring people from in to speak, and they get returned at the airport. All of this costs money. And we're just one of the organizations, but anything you feel like you could help us with, we would appreciate it. And now, Susanna is going to start the conversation about organizing, where we actually take those people that are in the street and we say, okay, this is what you need to do. And I think you're really right to just, whoever said that Palestine is our Vietnam, I think it is. Wow. I think the people in our country, the majority of, cannot stand what's happening over there. They morally feel the hurt, not our government, but they just bombing children, starving children, seeing babies and mothers in these horrible situations. So this is our moral compass, but we need to organize. So Susanna, and we'll kind of help. We need ideas from you guys too. So it's not like you're done.
I'll just go to the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Susanna, if you want to sit here,
Oh.
you may have
Okay. Oh, I'm good. Yeah, you're totally fine. Okay, so, as I said, I've been doing this stuff with the California Democratic Party since the Bernie years when they hated us. I have seen movement. It's small. It's taking freaking forever, but it is happening. I saw more people asked us for the stickers, the buttons. We have some stickers over here today that I brought back from the convention. There were people, prominent people, standing on that stage with pro-Palestine buttons on. That has never happened before, let me tell you. To Rob's comments about the Oakland No Kings event, we just set up a table there, our Rev group, and we had so many people come up to us with Palestine gear on, talking to us. So big change from previous rallies there. Even at the No Hands rally, a pro-Palestine march broke out in the middle of the No Hands march in Oakland. So yeah. So this is happening. We are seeing some coalescence. It needs to happen in a bigger way. Tesla Takedown, that is the Indivisible group mainly is behind that. They have done an amazing job, but as I'm sure you've all known if you've gone to a Tesla event, I live closest to Walnut Creek. Seriously, there's like 3 of us there, and there was a guy with a Palestine flag, and I about hugged him, that had Palestine gear on, right? That was your older white people concerned about their Social Security, their Medicare, and their Medicaid. But we got them out into the streets, and honestly, the bulk of those people have never protested anything. So we need to get these groups together, and I think it's happening. We're all talking to people. We talk to our family, our neighbors, our friends. Every time I get somebody that messages me on social media or connects with me and says, hey, tell me about this, tell me about that, what's really happening, I consider a win. A lot of people just aren't seeing what's happening. We see it because we're smart enough to go to the media that's covering it. I was in Europe last summer, Spain and Ireland. Their media is covering everything that's happening in Gaza. Western media is not. Al Jazeera English is my favorite source of media these days because at least they're covering what's happening, along with places that your average person's head eyes would roll, but it's the legitimate, honest media that's coming out. Once, God, I can't believe this has not happened yet. Like, where are the journalists that want a Pulitzer Prize that will sneak their way into Gaza and start rolling some film? I do not understand. Like, doesn't anybody want to win an award somewhere? The minute that happens, things will change. But right now, and there's a lot of personal risk. I have been doxxed. You know the drill. I've had a complaint filed. They tried to kick me out of the Democratic Party. All kinds of fun stuff happened. They lost badly. But so it's not been a fun ride, calling this a Holocaust from the very beginning. What we're doing is huge. No kings, even though it was still really white and really anti, what Trump is doing in our country. It still was a lot of people. It was, according to the Alt National Parks folks, if you're not following them on social media, please do. They have some pretty legit information, and they're quick to correct anything. They said 13.14 million people were out in the streets. They had 140,000 people out at the rallies taking totals and talking to people. So I think that their numbers were pretty accurate. I grew up in Siskiyou County. There were multiple protests in Siskiyou County. And trust me, man, unless it's like a red Trump thing, they do not protest anything up there. So people were really ticked off. If you haven't protested in a long time, I've got a couple of cheat sheets up there with some resources. Tesla takedowns every Saturday, Bay Area Tesla dealers. That is having a huge impact. I don't honestly, personally think Tesla will ever recover from that. There's going to be protests July 4th weekend. Check with your local groups. Be in touch with your local organizations. July 17th, there's a Good Trouble in honor of John Lewis protest. That is a nationwide protest. That will probably be the next No Kings, hands off thing. Also, Smokey's birthday, Save Our Parks, August 9th. Yeah, so organizations, I put something in here about orgs to follow. Obviously, Our Revolution, although nationally, they really haven't done much. 5051 has a state Facebook page set up for every state, so there's lots of information on there. Mobilize, a lot of these events are being put on Mobilize. Indivisible, I personally was not a fan of Indivisible because they are very reactionary as opposed to proactive, but they've done a bang-up job with the Tesla takedown. Working Families Party, some of those people, Jane Kim, we all know Jane. Jane's awesome. There's also a PSL group, Bay Area group on Instagram. They have a lot of information on local pro-Palestine, anti-genocide, we wish all Zionists would leave the planet protests. So good thing to follow. I already talked about Alt National Park, and then Our Revolution groups and a lot of Democratic clubs like Wellstone are definitely good places to be. I think you guys already probably know the do's and don'ts of safe protesting. For starters, you don't need a permit. Public spaces, no, you do not need a permit. That's why you see a lot of these protests say emergency. If it is reacting to something that just happened very recently, no permits. So you can literally, that's why that San Francisco protest today that just happened against the war in Iran, there was no permit pulled for that, I guarantee you. Manage your electronic devices. If you're traveling outside the country and you're like me, you've been pretty vocal about this, consider getting a burner phone. I have one. Oh, good. Okay. Hang on one second and we'll let you tell us. I got mine from QVC. They had a bang up plan. Go with buddies and friends. Like, make sure people know where you are going and when you are expected back, because really weird shit's happening. Citizens are being arrested, detained. People are being stuck in like in Los Angeles, they were literally putting people in the basement of the federal building. No one knew where they were. Be prepared to deal with agitators and law enforcement. Take your ID. If you're undocumented, be very, very careful. Take water and snacks, dress for the event. Probably like, shorts and a tank top, not so much. You may hit the ground at some point. Homemade signs. People ask about signs, right? And the homemade signs are the best ones. They're effective. They say, I sat in my house last night, grabbed a piece of cardboard and a Sharpie, and I made a sign because I am damn pissed off, right? All those homemade signs, no one can say, oh, Soros paid them, because we've all heard that. Or like, I've supposedly gotten money from China, Russia, Hamas. Like, seriously, they have extra money to pay protesters? They're trying to feed people. And have fun and meet people. Be careful. Kind of like, my 2 cents on this whole thing. We are having an impact. BDS is having a huge impact globally. McDonald's is begging. Starbucks is begging. Puma canceled their contract with Israel. A lot of money is being divested and moved out all over the place. Every day I see new information. So all of those actions are actually helping. Our protests, I know, it's like we feel like we're not moving the needle. We are moving the needle. I see it. I see more people that ask about Palestine. I see more people that compliment me when I wear my watermelon t-shirt. Have a cool watermelon t-shirt. Wear the peace, highly recommend them. And on an airplane, right? I have bracelets that say Free Palestine. I got the Girl Scout ones, but I have to restring those. I wore those all throughout Europe. I had people stop and ask me about them. So every little bit is helping. If you have any questions, holler. I want to hear your phone thing. And Austin, you had a question? Okay, thank you. There you go. No, that's okay. But seriously, yeah, there'll be all weekend. The 4th is like a Friday, and there'll be protests all weekend. So, and honestly, find something that really resonates with you and kind of, focus on that, because we all can't do 45 million things at once, although we do try. But, we get different groups together, all working together. And that's what's happening, right? There is no major group out there. I see this, to Rob's point, coalescing into an anti-war movement, especially with what the United States did with Iran, because that is now what I am seeing. And I do live in a bit of a bubble because I just can't tolerate these super crazy MAGA people. So they get blocked pretty quickly. But I kind of see that's where it's heading. So just, keep up what you're doing. Phone resource.
I happened to this place on East 14th in Oakland called Kem Wireless, and KEM Wireless, and they had advertised iPhone 11s for $250, including a month thing. Including a month's service. And when I went in there and I had on my Free Palestine button, the guy said, instead of $250, only charge her $200. He's Yemeni, and the owner's name is Sam, and he was very sweet. And it takes a long time to set up a burner phone with all the information you want on it, and make sure that it doesn't have anything that can get you into trouble. No, they don't help you. But there's this organization called something Justice. No.
Oh, I can help with that one.
Anyway.
All right, thank you. Great local resource. Obviously, somebody who's friendly with our cause. Here's one thing about burner phones. Okay, I have been just very crazy with social media and my anti-Trump rhetoric. So I'm not sure, even as a citizen, they let my ass back into the country if I leave. So I have literally canceled one vacation because of that. But on a burner phone, I don't want a plan. I don't want a phone plan. I want to go as a little under the radar. You want to keep that stripped down. I created a throwaway email account that I threw on there. And it'll just be minimal. I have enough stuff on there, like photos and some, emails, like sign up for all the clothing companies or whatever. So you have some email population. And I just wanted something with a decent camera. So for $100, I got a phone with unlimited talk, unlimited text, a bunch of data, and it's a fairly new Samsung, I believe. No, not Samsung. It's an Android phone, and it takes good pictures. I can't remember which one, but QVC and HSN, $100. So, okay.
I want to make a quick announcement. How many of you are residents of Alameda County? Most of you folks here. Have you been following the BRA Divest campaign for Alameda County? So you would know that the county treasurer, Henry Levy, divested from Caterpillar last December.
Yep.
And at that same meeting, the Board of Supervisors voted to have an ethical investment policy created by the treasurer. He's done that and then brought it back to his Treasury Oversight Committee about a couple months ago, and it's due to come back to the Board of Supervisors. So I just want to put that on your radar screen that we're not sure exactly what meeting it will be. It could be the first meeting or the second, or it could get delayed again, but just keep your eyes out. I'll send you some information about things that are going on around it because we really appreciate our Revolution chapter coming out to that supervisors meeting. And the other thing I want to let you know about is that how many of you know about the group CUFI, Christians Unified for Israel? So they are the major Christian Zionist group with 10 million plus members. They far outnumber any of the Jewish Zionist groups in the country, and our major relationship with the Trump administration going back to 2016, they've weighed in on this to Alameda County. The county treasurer told me that he got 1,500 emails connected to CUFI. So part of what we want to do when we bring this issue back to the county is to expose who CUFI is and what they're doing. Because in their letters, they don't describe their theology as Christian Zionists, and they're being proponents of the takeover of all of the Palestinian land. Yeah. And so we want to expose that at the time it comes back. So keep your eyes and ears open for what we're going to be going on in Alameda County. Thank you.
Awesome, thank
Our
you.
Revolution East Bay is actually a sponsor of the divestment in Alameda County. That's what we signed on to. Yeah, we're an endorser of that. So, okay, we have just a few more minutes.
Paola has a question.
Well, let me have the lady in the middle, but I don't know her name. So, you.
I think that's you.
Yes, just a quick question around centering Palestine in the movement. When it comes to Trans-Istanbul, I'm wondering what efforts are being made or done, or the connections right now with the protests against ICE. And I think that as the Latina immigrant myself, been naturalized as a citizen, but I'm not seeing that there is that connection where the Palestine fight is at the center of the movement. And I know this because our community is propagandized by the legacy media such as Univision and Telemundo, and they never talk about what's happening in Palestine. And so I feel that there is a huge, personally, I feel like there is a huge gap made that people are not, especially in our community, are not making that connection that what is happening right now in our community has been happening in Palestine for decades, right? And when I saw it, when I opened my eyes and the veil was lifted, I knew that was soon going to happen here, right? And so my question is, what efforts are being made now to connect those dots?
Well, I think what's important about that is wherever you are in the spaces where people are dealing with organizing around immigration rights, is to bring up the connection, between what's happened to Palestinians and the fact that what's happening in policies here are being imported from Palestine, right?
Right.
What's happening with people here now in terms of immigration are things that Palestinians have dealt with for many, many years. Right. So we're doing that as a church in our faith-based circles. We're always bringing up the fact that people need to center the Palestine issue, even when we're organizing around Palestinian rights. That's why also with Alameda County has a task force on immigrant rights. They want to champion them. They want to put out the notice that they will not tolerate the grievances against immigrants because Alameda County sees itself as a so-called progressive county, right? But we want them also on this issue around the ethical investment to center Palestine around that and conjoin these issues together. And that's what we hope we can do when we bring it back to the full board of supervisors and get some of the supervisors who understand it to speak up about it. You know, there are some supervisors who don't get it. And so they can't speak on something that they don't understand. But the ones that do get it, we want them to speak up and we want to have their back when they do. So I think there's many organizing circles right now where there's a lot going on around immigrant issues. And I'm getting those on different signal chats already every day. But that's the challenge. How do we bring that intersection of conversation there?
Yeah, Mahmoud Khalil. That is actually probably going to be one of the driving forces because that really merged immigrant rights. It merged our Constitution, those constitutionally protected rights that literally set us apart from the rest of the world. And Mahmoud Khalil is Palestinian, and you know he is speaking out loud and proud about that. Follow that case. The government should not prevail. And there's also been all of the other students, not only Palestinian students, but students from other Muslim countries and all of the people that stood up to support them. That is a good, because that actually made the press. That actually, people actually know about it, right? So. They are actually following Mahmoud. No, but it has made national press, which is a miracle. Okay, we need to wrap this puppy up.
Yeah, let me just see this.
Because we have to close this thing out and get out of here. 17 minutes.
What they're doing in Pakistan, they're doing to our people. They're doing it in Africa. That's how we can tie it in. We can continue and we can fix stuff in Spanish.
President of Mexico.
Exactly, and
the president of Mexico. They have a Palestinian ambassador.
Joanna, you want to
I just wanted to thank you for pointing that out because we absolutely need more solidarity, right? We have to show up for immigrant communities the way we're showing up for Palestine, and we want our immigrant communities to show up for Palestine as well, right? Like all of our struggles are interconnected, and you're seeing those connections, and now you have a duty to tell other people about those connections, and all of us do as leaders in these spaces. How we show up and we say, you know, when our immigrant brothers or sisters are under attack, we stand up and fight back. When our union leaders are under attack, we stand up and fight back. When our Black leaders are under attack, same with Palestinians, right? List them so that people can understand it's the same idea.
Well, one more thing, and then Pio, you're going to be the last. Also, I think there's a problem sometimes in our organization where you have to be the perfect protester or the perfect advocate or the perfect activist. You know, we need the numbers, guys. We need all of us. You know, I may not agree with you on some things, but let's join hands. Let's figure out how we connect, because all these issues are all connected. They're all due process. They're all your rights as a citizen, your rights as a human being. And we have to stop saying this group or that group. We have to say we're all human beings on this planet. Okay?
I just want to say one last thing. If you guys want to do something, so the Berkeley Network for Palestine, one of our main goals is to get printed material to share with people. So what we're going to do next is we're going to be printing up these little they're a quarter size, 8.5 on 11 postcards that we're going to be, we're writing about. The postcards have images of products out of Trader Joe's that are made in Israel and you can boycott. There's also a QR code, and we're printing those up, and we will be happy to share these flyers with people. So when you go to Trader Joe's, if you go, you can put them on people's cars. So that's what we want to do. We want to educate, and that's our goal, to do these type of tactics to get the word out. Because this is one way that one person can just put them on 10 cars, and you might change somebody's mind. So if you're interested, we're willing to do that. Give us your number, and we'll be willing to give you printed material so you can share it.
And you don't need to be on Central Committee. Look, we are more powerful. I'm sorry, I shouldn't limit you my power. But thank you, you don't have to be on the damn ballot, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Now nobody in the class meetings. Can you imagine? Like, now you know why they don't. I wish IT was in this meeting. Shameful. He's shameful. He works at them. Yes, I want to get it. Yes. I can't. I take
Are you talking about Trader Joe's stuff?
Yes, we're